People who think too much psychology explained there is a particular kind of tired that sleep cannot fix. It's not the tiredness that comes from running too far or working too long. It's the kind that settles behind your eyes after hours of conversations you never had out loud. It's the weight of 1,000 imagined outcomes. It's lying in the dark at 2 a.m., not because something went wrong today, but because your mind is somewhere 3 days ahead or 3 years behind, rehearsing, replaying, rebuilding. If you know that feeling, this is for you. Because there is something nobody tells people like you. People who think too much, who feel too deeply, who carry the invisible weight of every unspoken word and every unresolved moment. Nobody tells you that your exhaustion is not weakness. It is the cost of a mind that never learned it was allowed to rest. And that is not your fault. That is your history. Psychologists have a name for this pattern. They call it maladaptive rumination, a tendency for the mind to return again and again to the same thoughts, the same fears, the same half-finished emotional conversations. Studies from Yale and the University of Michigan have found something quietly profound about people who ruminate. They are not anxious because they are fragile. They ruminate because their brain is exceptionally good at something pattern recognition. Their mind is always scanning the horizon, always reading between the lines, always searching for meaning in the spaces where other people see nothing at all. The problem is not the intelligence. The problem is that the system never receives a signal to stop. Think of it like a city that never turns its lights off. Beautiful from a distance, yes, but inside, the wiring is always running. The generators never cool down, and eventually, even the strongest infrastructure begins to wear under the weight of never-ending operation. That is what overthinking does to a person from the inside. Neurologically, this comes down to a specific part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex. This is your brain's analyst, your internal strategist, the part responsible for planning, self-reflection, and consequence mapping. In people who overthink, this region stays highly active even during rest, even in silence, even in sleep. And working alongside it is something called the default mode network, the brain's background processing system, which keeps generating internal monologue long after the external world has gone. Quiet, the result is a mind that is essentially always online, always drafting, always auditing, always preparing responses to conversations that have not happened yet, and dissecting conversations that ended hours ago. But here is the part that changes everything, and most people never hear this part. This pattern almost never begins in adulthood. For the vast majority of overthinkers, the habit is rooted much earlier, in a childhood where the emotional weather was unpredictable, in a home where moods shifted without warning, in an environment where one wrong word, one wrong expression, one moment of being too loud or too much could change everything. When a young child grows up in that kind of uncertainty, their brain does something remarkable. It adapts. It begins to think ahead obsessively, constantly, protectively. If I can predict what's coming, maybe I can prepare. If I can anticipate their reaction, maybe I can stay safe. Overthinking in this light was never a flaw. It was armor. It was a small child's most intelligent response to a world that felt like it could shift beneath their feet at any moment. And the tragedy is not that they developed it. The tragedy is that so many of them are still wearing that armor decades later, in rooms where there is no longer any danger. The war ended, but the mind never received the message, and so they carry it forward into friendships where they overanalyze a 3-word reply. into relationships where a moment of silence feels like a warning sign, into their own minds at midnight, where a single memory can unravel into an hour of quiet suffering. This is the cost of armor that was never meant to be permanent. But here is the shift, the one that therapy, time, and honest self-reflection slowly makes possible. What if you stopped seeing your overthinking as a malfunction? What if instead you recognized it as a messenger, one that learned to speak too loudly because it was once the only thing keeping you safe? You are not broken. You are someone whose nervous system learned to love you in the only way it knew how, by never stopping, never resting, never leaving you unprepared. Healing does not mean silencing that voice. It means learning to sit beside it gently and whisper, "It's okay. We are safe now. You can rest," and slowly, with patience, it will believe you. If these words found something quiet inside you, something you have never quite been able to explain, you are not alone. You never were.